Hello YouTube friends, Deidre here from Our Upcycled Life. Today I have a video full of upcycling. I went to the thrift store last week and I found all kinds of great things to upcycle, and I've put some together and I'm going to show you how I did it and how they turned out. And if you're new here, I do lots of thrifting, upcycling, repurposing, and DIY content, and I love new crafting friends. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss any great DIY content. Everything that I'm upcycling today came from this video here, and it was packed full of great finds for really good prices. But the first thing that I'm going to let you know is, if you remember the horse lamp that I bought, don't worry, I'm not doing anything to it. It actually is a mid-century horse console TV lamp. The top is fiberglass and it's ceramic. I'm not touching it. I went onto eBay and I looked for some things that were comparable to it, and it's actually worth a little bit of money. So I think I'm just going to keep it and maybe use it as a conversation piece in my house. This is what I'm going to be working on today. I have a welcome sign, a home sign, I have a folk art shelf, some little wooden dishes, a foot massager, and a big glass vase. I love finding things at the thrift store that I can take apart and repurpose and upcycle into other things. This foot massager is a prime example. I was able to take it apart really easy with a couple bangs with a hammer, and I have all these pieces now to create other things from. Some skewers, we got all kinds of big huge beads, and the first thing I'm going to do with them is I picked up these little wooden bowls. I'm going to use 2 of those big beads and some E6000, and we're going to create some really cute trinket dishes. I'm just going to take my E6000, put a little bit of glue on the bottom of that one bead, and then attach it to the bottom of one of the wooden bowls. And then I'm going to put some E6000 on the top of the bead and put another bowl facing up on the top. When you're in the thrift store scouring around, always look for unusual things that would be made from beads that you could take apart and repurpose into new items. I'm just going to put a little more E6000 on the top and secure that top little dish and let it dry completely. And these turned into really cute little trinket dishes. You can put little bracelets or your earrings or rings in and display them really pretty. Next, upcycle. This folk art wall sconce. I'm really torn with this because I always hate painting over somebody else's artwork. Somebody has taken a lot of time with this toll painting, and I just can't bring myself to paint over it. So I'm actually going to take the shelf off of it. I'm going to keep it as is, and that will be the bottom of my project. I just put a little bit of wood filler in those 3 screw holes, and we're ready to paint it. I'm going to save this little shelf bit and turn it into something a little bit later. I'm going to paint it with some black chalk paint. And I'm also going to paint that little shelf with some black chalk paint while I have it on the go. Now I'm going to take some candle wax and just go around the edges of that board, just so when I paint on top of it and I sand it away, it'll give that distressed look. Next coat, I have some gray chalk paint that I'm going to layer on top of that black. We're going to get out the Elmer's glue because we're going to do a crackle effect on the top of this board. If you've been following around here for a while, you've seen me do this crackle technique quite a bit. I love the way it gives a piece of wood that vintage aged look. We're just going to spread that Elmer's glue across that whole board in long strokes. I've let the Elmer's glue sit for about 30 seconds to a minute just to get a little bit tacky, and then I'm going to brush on my white. The key to having a successful crackle on your project is to do long strokes and not work that paint into the glue very much, and then you'll get a perfect crackle. And it's all crackled and it turned out perfect. I love it, and we still have all that toll painting on the back that we saved. Some more of those beads from the foot massager. We're gonna E6000 glue them onto the bottom of the board. Love the way that this turned out. Created a beautiful cutting board that's decor for the middle of our table. Now back to that foot massager again. This is the bottom of the foot massager and the two sides. I glued it together with some E6000, painted it with some black chalk paint, and now I'm painting it with this beautiful turquoise color, and it just turned it into a little mini tiered tray that you can keep a little vase, and I've just got a little plant that I'm propagating in it. Two beads from the foot massager and that shelf off the toll painting. I'm going to turn this into a little cute sign for our patio. I'm going to use my Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer method to put some graphics on, let it sit for 24 hours, and now it's ready to have the paper rubbed off. This has been really fun because I've taken that foot massager and I've taken it apart and I've created so many different projects with it, and all it cost was $3.99 from Value Village, and I had a coupon too for 30% off. So perfect upcycling and repurposing happening here. Relax and unwind. You're on patio time. We're now going to work on this welcome sign. It was $4.99 at Value Village. I'm going to take off all of those hooks and we're going to do a burning decoupage method on this sign. If you've been following along, you've probably seen me do this technique before. It works fabulous and it eliminates having to do a lot of sanding when you're decoupaging into those little intricate areas. I'm using 1 ply of a napkin and our Mod Podge, and we're going to decoupage it onto that welcome sign. We are going to be using a lighter and a flame. Make sure you have a squirt bottle full of water handy, and you're doing this in a well-ventilated area. I'm out in my shed with the door open. If you're going to do it in your home, maybe you could do it over your kitchen sink and just be really careful with it. I'm going to put the Mod Podge over the whole welcome sign and then lay that napkin down in it, smooth it out, and make sure we get rid of all of the bubbles and wrinkles. So I have to use 2 napkins because this is a little bit of a bigger project. So I want to make sure when I'm laying down that second napkin that I make sure that it's all lined up. And if you've never tried this technique, you need to give it a try because it is game changer and so much fun. I'm just going to cut away as much of the extra napkin as I can because you don't want to have too much napkin when you're burning it away, or it'll flame up too much and it'll scorch around your letters. And the other thing is you want to work quickly because when we do put the lighter to it, we want to make sure that that Mod Podge is still wet. You don't want the Mod Podge to dry or it won't work properly. I've just taken the end of my scissors where there's little holes in between the letters, and then you're just going to take your lighter and just light that napkin on fire, and you'll see as we watch it, it'll form all around those letters right into those little nooks and crannies. And your flame may go out, and when it does, you can just start again, and to get into those little holes in between the letters, like I did before, poke a little hole and then just put the lighter in, light it, and it'll form right around that whole letter. This is so fun to watch and it's almost mesmerizing. I sealed that all up with some polyacrylic sealer and put the hooks back on, and then I had this big piece of baseboard that I'm going to mount the welcome on. I just feel that it makes it look a little bit more sturdy and more expensive looking having this on a background. And I love the way that it turned out, and using that burning technique made it nice and speedy. Okay, now I'm going to work on this home sign. I actually had an idea in my head of what I was going to do with it, and then I had one of my followers in the comments give me an idea, and it inspired me to change what I was going to do with it. They had left a message and said, I think you should turn that into a little dog sign, somewhere to hang a leash and to hang a little dog jacket, and to make the graphics love with the O being a dog paw. And I thought that's brilliant. That will work perfect for this. So changed my thought, and this is what I'm going to do. So thank you for your idea and your inspiration. I love when you guys go down in my comments and help me out with this kind of stuff. I've just got a little piece of wax. I'm going to go around the outside, so when I do distress it, it'll help it along and make it look even more rustic and chippy. Now I'm going to put a coat of homemade chalk paint on. Also put some painter's tape on those hooks, so when I did spray paint it, I didn't get any overspray on the hooks. Once it was completely dry, I sanded it down with my palm sander using some 80 grit sandpaper, and I printed off my graphics, and we're ready to put them on with the Mod Podge. All the graphics that I'm using today you can grab out of my Etsy store. Make sure you use the code SAVE50 and you can get 50% off of all of the graphics over there. I set it aside and let it dry, and now it's the next day, and we're just going to dampen it until you can just start to see the graphics through, and then we're going to rub off all of that paper. If you've been following along here for a while, you know I love this way to transfer graphics onto your project. It's so affordable, and it takes a little bit of practice in the beginning, but once you get the hang of it, it is fantastic, and the possibilities are endless. This technique does work best with a laser jet printer, but if you do have an inkjet, it'll still work with a little bit of practice. And this turned out adorable. My little Yorkie Tina is going to love this, some place to hang up her little jacket and her little leash. This project was also inspired by quite a few people down in my comments. I'm going to turn it into a cloche. I have an old spindle. I'm going to cut the top off, and I have an old piece of wood that I traced out a circle that's a little bit bigger than the vase, and I cut a piece off the top of that spindle. We're going to use the E6000 to glue it onto the top so it creates a little bit of a handle. I had a plate, and the circumference of the plate was just a little bit bigger than the vase, so I traced it around this old piece of wood, and I'm just going to use my jigsaw and just cut out that circle. Once I got it cut out, I took my sander and gave it a really good sanding, and I love the way that it made the grain in the wood pop out. I'm not going to paint it. I'm going to use it the natural wood color. And I had a smaller circle that I'm going to glue on the bottom of it, so when I do set it on a dresser or a table, it's going to raise it up a little bit. Once the glue was completely dried, I sealed it up with a couple coats of my polyacrylic sealer. And I think this turned out darling. I had a little sign that I put in it that I'd made. I had an old antique book and some faux greenery. Set it on top of that wooden circle, and it pulled it all together. I love it. And that spindle on the top finishes it off perfectly. I had a lot of fun upcycling all these projects today, and I love when I can take one item and turn it into 2 or 3 different things that are all beautiful. I would love to know down in the comments, what was your favorite project today? And also thank you for all the comments in my last thrift haul video and all the inspiration you gave me to create some of the projects that I did today. And if you really enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you follow along because I love lots of crafting friends. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.